And you made an interesting parallel before we started recording to the large language models like GPT-4 that we have today.
Yeah. So um, this actually relates back to the project that we're doing here too. I've been using an agent, open source code that will go out and do research utilizing Claude or GPT-4, or one of the big ones.
That's an open source agent?
Yeah, it's Baby AGI.
Baby AGI, yeah.
So that's a good example. It's a iterate. It's like riffed off of it. So it's not exactly Baby AGI. It's my own repository that we use here in house at Species X.
Oh, cool.
But I can't like open source it just because there's a lot of proprietary information inside of that repository. So yeah, it's definitely a riff off of that. There's a lot of, in addition to changes on the actual Baby AGI code, there's also a lot of prompt engineering. And I still can't believe I'm saying the word engineering, but it's definitely a thing now. It's just crazy to me. So what the goal of the agent is to go out. It's given a goal. It goes out, does research on the top beers, and then it'll create a brand new recipe, and then it will go ingredient by ingredient, improving the recipe at each stage. So it'll keep going until you just tell it to stop. But yeah, and then in addition to that, it'll tell me its name. And then it also prompts me with an image of itself to put into a image generator. So going off that's you'll see on the website it says various agents. That's what we're talking about there. We'll eventually. I have to figure out how I'm going to release one of those agent beers, but in there you can see even in the Baby AGI repository code, it'll say temperature, and you can mess with the temperature in there. I've noticed when you up the temperature of the model, it tends to do some pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, and so to dig into this is when you have a large language model, there's a key hyperparameter, so a key attribute that you can adjust called temperature. And I guess it actually, in a way, we can bring this analogy back to your sweaty yeast thing,
Oh
because
yeah.
it's kind of like, when you have cold water that you're brewing in, the reactions are slower, more predictable. And when you're doing the reactions like you might with an ale, in a warmer temperature, the action proceeds more quickly, but it's more sporadic. And yeah, so it's similar with temperature as well. So actually, if you turn the temperature on a large language model all the way down to zero, you will end up with um, uh, a totally unstochastic model. It'll be a deterministic model where every time you run it, you'll get the exact same output. So it's just predicting the most likely generative sequence, whether that's an image or text or code or whatever you have your generative AI model doing, whatever you have your large language model doing. It is you turn the temperature up, it will have more random outputs. So it will explore, so you'd end up with more creative images, or more creative, more random stories. And yeah, so that relates Beau too.
Yeah. So when I was studying psychology, you talk about how as a person gets more, when their schizophrenia really starts to develop, you can actually see this in artists too, that are developing schizophrenia. At first their drawings will be they'll look like very realistic or like photorealistic in some cases. They look normal essentially. But as the schizophrenia develops, you'll see like a lot more colors and more like subjective shapes and stuff, more abstract, till eventually it's completely unrecognizable and it's just all colors on a piece of paper. and no shapes, no nothing. So like one example I saw was a person was drawing a cat and they were really good at drawing cats. And then eventually like the cat forms start to go away until it's just like blobs of color. And going back to the LLM reference, I noticed when I upped the temperature on it, it would like talk to itself. So it'd be like, it would have conversations with itself and none of it made any sense. Like a word salad is what people call it. So it would just like, chirp off and start making absolutely no sense whatsoever. I was like, gosh, this reminds me of like schizophrenia. Like, it's just like strikingly similar to like the development of schizophrenia. If you have a temperature on 0, like you were saying, very proper, you know what I mean? Very, will not, do anything too crazy. But as you up the temperature, that cat, as a, referencing back to the cat drawings just got crazier and crazier and crazier till it's unrecognizable and makes no sense.